Hello guys, so I thought I would film today a little chat video. If you watched my previous vlog, which I'll put up here somewhere, I mentioned that I started feeling pretty sick in that video, and yeah, I'm finally feeling a little bit better. I had a nightmare trying to get meds, but finally I saw a doctor and I'm feeling better. So just like the weak kind of weird antibiotics vibe, but generally I feel like already like a new person, which is just so nice. I wanted to just chat with you a little bit about the things that I've been reading because I meant to vlog, but because I was feeling so bad, I either just didn't have the energy to pick up the camera or I just didn't feel like being seen, you know? But I did read some really interesting things. So I started with a Mary Oliver poetry collection. Sometimes, well, I don't need to get into it. You know that I like poetry and sometimes I just get the itch for it. So, and I saw kind of Mary Oliver sort of making the rounds. I mean, of course, she's a very prolific poet. And very loved, but she was popping up more in the circles. So I got her book on my Kindle called, what is it called? The Owl and Other Fantasies, I think. You can see the show that I get to see here because Ohad is doing drag makeup and rehearsing for a number, so I have a front row seat. Owls and Other Fantasies. These are poems, and I think there's one short essay called Owl or Owls. And a lot of these poems have actually been in other collections of hers, so you might already know them if you're familiar with her poetry. But all of these poems have to do with birds. So, you know, she's famous for nature poetry, and in these poems she's really kind of using the birds as her muse. There's one poem that I loved called The Swan. So I may read that to you, or I'm working on a small project alongside this YouTube channel that involves reading certain things. I'm like, it's not a fully formed project, it's just kind of something in my head that I'm working on what I want it to be and how. But that would definitely be one that I would be interested in reading to you guys. The Swan is beautiful. There was something very feel-good about, you know, her poetry is very warm, heartwarming. She kind of falls in love and observes birds and the way they communicate, their flight, the way their colors are. It's very short. All of these books are short because I was trying to pack in some more tinies for the Jessica's Tiny Book Challenge. So anyway, that was great. And then I picked up 300 Arguments by Sarah Manguso. I heard about Sarah Manguso for the first time in Eleanor's video, who I've spoken about before. Her channel is The Only Real Property. She talks a lot about poetry, and I don't remember what video it was, but she talks about 300 Arguments by Sarah Manguso, and she kind of draws a thread between whatever book the actual video was about and this one. But the way she described it seemed really interesting to me. I was in New York, in upstate New York, in like one town, who knows what it was called, maybe it was Beacon. I saw it in a bookshop, secondhand, but I just kind of felt bad about how many books that I had already bought on that trip, and I didn't go for it. So anyway, I got it on the Kindle. This is like prose. They're very short kind of bits. I assume there's 300 of them, although I didn't count. I was a little bit underwhelmed. The style in which these fragments are to be read is kind of like aphorisms, like little kind of life lessons. I didn't love that, to be honest. Enjoyed it a little bit more towards the end. I felt myself like highlighting more things, and there were more of these arguments that resonated with me, or that I thought were really strong or very thought-provoking. She also, through the fragments, is talking about using fragments as writing, and also that I'm hesitate to say fragments, although I don't know what else to kind of call it, but like to call something fragmentary is to say that it isn't finished or that it's part of something that isn't whole. And she's kind of fighting that through these short bits that are whole in themselves. She's aware of how they look on the page, these little bits of her life, and they're very autobiographical. So like she's aware of what kind of story it makes up of her with all of these chunks combined. The bits where she talks about depression and grief I found really moving and powerful. Overall, I didn't love it. I thought it was just fine. Like, won't stick with me. Wasn't something completely revelatory. Like, it was nice. There are some things you want to kind of like put on your fridge. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't work for me fully. And then I read the book that I was like the most excited to talk about, which is why I wanted to do this chat video, which was The English Understand Wool by Helen DeWitt. This is from the Storybook, is it called Storybook? Collection of New Directions Publishing, which we all love. And these are beautiful, I'll put the cover here, beautiful, very small little books that are in a collection. I know there's one by Clarice Lispector that I really want to read, The Woman That Killed the Fish or something. This is Helen DeWitt's, which is The English Understand Wool. She's written The Last Samurai, which I didn't read, but I know of kind of through Rebecca. And Rebecca also read this, and she thought it was really nice. And then I saw Jessica also read it from Jessica's Bookstack, and like some others. This is a really interesting, twisty, turny story about this young girl who's 17 years old. And you get from the beginning that she's grown up in like a very, very, very wealthy family, very wealthy situation. They live in Marrakesh. And it's during Ramadan, and it's like a tradition of their family, or of her and her mother. She doesn't see her father very much. Her mother, that they go away from where they live in Marrakesh, own a riad there, and during Ramadan they take off, so they pay all the workers, but they leave and they go traveling somewhere like Paris or London, Scotland, Ireland, and on one of the trips, something happens. I don't want to give it away. It is about the plot, I must say. It's like a small book with like, if I tell you the plot, then it misses the point. I mean, she's a great, great writer, so regardless, it would be entertaining. But yeah, there's like a big twist. If you're familiar with Inventing Anna on Netflix, the like story about Anna Delvey. This gives me major Anna Delvey vibes, and it was just so fun to read. And there are some scenes, like specifically like a lunch meeting scene between her and like a publisher, the character and a publisher, and I like wanted that as a script. Like I wanted to do it, like I wanted to do this monologue. So it was really, really entertaining, and I loved it. The book itself includes passages of a book that the character is writing about the story, so it's like a story within a story, very meta-fictional in that sense. But for a short novella, I think it's so good. She's dissecting the kind of things that her mother has taught her are good manners and bad manners, and like the whole book she's kind of obsessed with like not doing anything like in bad manners, as she's sort of figuring out what to do in the situation. Hilariously pretentious and privileged, and yeah, I just thought it was so good. So that's a like great short story novella that you have to read. I loved it. Definitely want to read more of Helen DeWitt now. I must read The Last Samurai at some point. I'm currently reading now this book called Self-Portrait by Celia Paul. Celia Paul is a painter, and she was the muse and lover of the famous artist Lucien Freud, German artist. This is her autobiography, where she talks about the art life, living as an artist, kind of dedicating herself to the form, and also speaking. He's very, very famous, so speaking about her relationship with him a bit and what it was like to sit for his paintings, and their kind of very weird relationship. I just started it. I'm like only 17%, so I'm actually not familiar with her work. I'm familiar with his. I have a book of his there, but now I like really want to look at her art more, and yeah, I was in the mood for like an artist's book. It's called Self-Portrait, and I think she's gonna talk a lot about making yourself your subject, which I think is interesting in art, and I'm thinking about creating a solo for myself, like choreographing a solo piece on myself that is to kind of make myself my subject, which I have like weird feelings about, and but also really interests me. So I don't know, I just thought it would be fitting for this time in my own personal kind of research. And also this book, The Matisse Stories by A.S. Byatt. I got this in a used bookshop, and I just thought, like, there's no way I can not go home with this book. Just because, I don't know, Matisse, and like, it's a beautiful cover, and each, it's 3 short stories, with illustration, Matisse illustrations. I just read the first one. It was fine. I kind of set this aside, like it's been literally sitting like this on my table for like a week because I just haven't gotten back into it. Yeah, the first story was kind of about a woman. It's called, what's it called? Medusa's Ankles. Maybe having a midlife crisis, and it's like she's going to get her hair done, and so it takes place like in the hairdresser's studio. Like the observation and the description of like art, one, like there's a Matisse painting inside the salon. It's an attention to aesthetics in the surroundings that I thought was interesting. And yeah, she basically like loses her shit in the dressing salon and like breaks everything or something. So it was like kind of entertaining and wild a little bit, but I just thought it was fine. Like looking for something really gripping me lately, and it just didn't, so I didn't pick up the rest of it yet. While we're here talking about books, as we do, I will just maybe put on your radar some things that I'm starting to read now. I look forward to reading. I'm wanting to read a historical fiction. I read Matrix by Lauren Groff. When I was in Paris, I made a vlog of that. Really loved it, really loved reading good writing, historical, female-driven book. So I was kind of looking for something that would be sort of in that vein. And I also started watching House of the Dragon, and was also like into something. So anyway, I saw, whose video was it? I think it was Eric Carl Anderson's video about like books for fall, and he mentioned The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell, which is a historical fiction book about the Medici family in Florence. And I was already so interested because when I was in the Uffizi Gallery in Florence a few years ago, there's so much art in that gallery, but I could not tear myself away from the room of portraits of the Medici family. Like something about those paintings, which one of which is on the cover of this book, was so enchanting to me. And I love Florence and wanted to read something like set there. So I'm looking forward to reading that. It's kind of out of what I normally read, but but I think it will be really great to like dig into really a character drama for the fall months. And 2 books that I got last night on my Kindle when I was like not sure what I want to read. One was The Road to the City by Natalia Ginzburg. I think this is a novel. I was on my Storygraph kind of looking at the things that I had pinned that I want to read based on page count, and I was looking for small pages, or a small number of pages. I actually don't know anything about it, but I love Natalia Ginzburg's writing. Like everything I've ever read of hers I just thought was so wow. Lack of a more sophisticated word to use, but I just really love her writing. So The Road to the City. Then I was watching Lindsay, who I think just started her YouTube channel a little while ago, or at least I just found her. Her name on here is Flying Flowers. Love her energy. You just have to go check out her channel. Makes a lot of videos like natural dyeing of fabrics with plants and berries, art, ecology, writing, centered. So anyway, she has just a lovely energy, and she posted a video I think yesterday about like books that she'd read and books that are kind of on her TBR. And she's also has the most beautiful, soothing voice, and I just want to like be next to her and have her read me things. So she spoke about in that video a book by Tove Jansson, or is it Jansson? Tove Jansson maybe, called Fair Play, which is kind of a book about I think what I remember about the blurb, it's like 2 writers or artists or something that are like living in like a Scandinavian cabin or something, just being and writing there. I don't know, maybe I'm totally off. That's kind of what I remember, but from what I read last night, but I was like, okay, yes. So I got that one. The October pick for Katie James's book club is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin, which has been on all of our lists in the book club for like a long time, and it felt like it's the time to do it. I don't know why I'm hesitant about reading it. I think because once I read the beginning of that book, and he's such an incredible writer, but I found something so triggering about reading it. And it stayed with me for a few days after, and I just remember it was really visceral. So I'm a little nervous, although I think I absolutely must read it. So if we're gonna do it together, then let's do it, and I want to. Just am nervous for some reason. So that's also on the list at some point. Tonight we're going for family dinner with the Hodds family. What else can I say and chat with you about? There's that new freaky film coming out with Florence Pugh called The Wonder, I think. Looks crazy. I love Florence Pugh. I'll watch anything that she's in, especially when she's in some weird period freaky shit film. I'm excited for that as like a Halloween vibe. Yeah, I want to get in the spooky vibes. If you have any recommendations for me, like films, literature, maybe I'll read some classics. Like here in Tel Aviv, like, or in Israel in general, Halloween is not like such a big thing, so I'm not surrounded by the vibes, but I want to bring the vibes hardcore to me. So please give me some recommendations. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you later. Hope you guys are good. Bye.